you said something about finding a teacher that resonates with you. How do we do that? Maybe somebody listening has gone to a yoga class where everyone's super bendy, to use your words, and maybe feels like, oh, I'm not as bendy, or I can't touch my toes. And maybe they're listening now, how do we find a better teacher that might meet us where we are when we're kind of new to this?
Yeah. I would say keep trying. I mean, most people come to yoga because they're like, oh, my back hurts. I want less back pain, or I'm too, I want to be more flexible, or I saw this on Instagram and that person's doing a handstand and I want to be able to do that. So most people come through the physical body. That's, in yoga terms, we call that the very first layer of our whole person. And so it's wonderful, come through the physical body. But at some point, if you are only there through the musculoskeletal system and you haven't tapped into anything deeper, you're probably going to treat it as a trend, like step aerobics was back in the 90s, and, boot camp is, and, TRX, whatever's happening now, and you're going to move on to the next best thing. But if something touches your soul, if that teacher has a way of helping you go deeper into the practice and challenges that resistance within you. And everyone comes to yoga with some level of resistance. Maybe it's physical, maybe it's mental, emotional, or spiritual. You're coming to this practice with some form of resistance. So if a teacher can help you penetrate that in a way that feels safe to you, that's your teacher. And that teacher is not just going to challenge you in the physical poses. They're going to challenge you in a much different way. And you'll know it when it's the right teacher. You'll know it.
Yeah, it's like a click. I
Mm-hmm.
remember I lived in Austria for a while, and when I moved there, I didn't speak German very well, and I started taking a yoga class with the company I was working at the time, and she taught it in German because most of them were German speakers. And eventually she started teaching more in English, but I loved yoga because I was like, oh, this is helping me like connect with that new language I'm learning and with my body at the same time. But I remember specifically because I did start with fitness because of the physical body. I wanted to look a certain way, be a certain strength, look like, the models that were on the Fitness Oxygen magazine, whatever, all the things. And so I was doing yoga for the bendiness, to touch my toes, to be, like this. But I remember we were in Downward Dog, and she said something about connecting to the fleshy part between my pointer finger and my thumb while we were in Downward Dog. And I'll never forget that because she kind of spoke my language, because she was having me connect with the part of my body, right? I was very much in the physical when it came to yoga at that time. But then I remember as I started to listen to her words, she would just, give certain cues that helped me connect to parts of my body that I hadn't really paid attention to before. And because of that, I kind of built this trust with her within my physical body of like, oh, she knows that when I bring awareness to this fleshy spot between my pointer finger and my thumb, that's going to flatten down my hands even more in that position. Or when she has me like internally or externally rotate, it just helped me connect with my physical body in a new way that allowed me to kind of trust her even more. It was like, okay, she knows what feelings and sensations I might be feeling in my body. And then I was kind of able to go deeper. And I thought that was really profound and powerful. And just the way yoga instructors have that ability to use words to help us connect with our physical body. But then I felt that was kind of like the slide that, just kind of took me down the rabbit hole of something deeper. Do you find that with your students?
I do. And I teach in all different types of venues, from very traditional yoga studios to an online platform to health clubs. I've taught in many different venues, and really, I encourage people to practice, because the more you practice, the more you can connect and the more space you find. So what in yoga terms, what we're really doing is first, and I'm a kinesiology professor, so I understand the body. So the first thing I have to do is I have to keep students safe in their musculoskeletal system. I have to help them feel like, okay, I'm safe here. I understand my body. But then as you practice long enough, you start to connect to your energy body, and you actually start to understand how energy moves through the body. And this can seem a little esoteric to some people if they haven't practiced that deeply, but you start to peel. This is what it means: body, mind, spirit. That gets thrown around so much. Body, mind, spirit, physical, mental, soul, body, mind, soul, all of this gets thrown around. But when I ask people, what does that mean? Most people have no idea what that actually means. It's just like body, mind, spirit. But what does it truly mean? And yoga gives us the framework to understand that. So we do have the musculoskeletal system. It's our most superficial part of our body. We have to break through the barriers of that. You have to learn how, oh, I overwork my traps, up here I'm always like this. You have to learn, like, oh, I can use my upper back. I can start to use everything and overuse nothing. So my body comes back into balance. So my posture, my musculoskeletal system has balance and symmetry. Okay, now I feel good in my body. Well, guess what? When the body is no longer clenching and holding, your energy system starts to wake up and you start to feel the energy moving through your body. So you learn how to direct, regulate, and capture that energy. And when you learn to do that, it starts to bring greater clarity and vitality to the mind. And when the mind has more clarity and vitality, here's where the magic starts to happen. You start to tap into your inner body wisdom, your insight, your intuition. Magic actually, like, you start to listen to those intuitive nudges that you usually forget, that, it's telling you, but you're too busy to even notice. So you start to tap into that. And once you start tapping into that, it really starts to open you up into this deeper, most profound part of your inner self where you find lasting peace. And this is the journey, but it takes practice. My teacher, was from India, he's passed away in his 90s, but I practiced with him. He taught all the way up until he passed. And he didn't speak much English, but he would say the most profound things. People would, after practice, many times that we would have where he'd sit and answer some questions, and people would always ask these like same crazy questions. He was lovingly called Guruji, and they're like, "Oh, Guruji, how soon until I can put my foot behind my head? How soon can I do a hand?" All these like crazy questions, and how soon can I fix my low back? My low back hurts, my neck hurts, my headaches. And they'd ask him all of these questions. And one time, you could tell he's just so tired of answering these same questions because they weren't really that important when it comes to the practice. And he said something that I use all the time and I share with my students all the time, because my whole thing is getting people to practice. None of this matters if you don't have the devotion and discipline to do the practice. And he said, do your practice for a lifetime, and you will have more health and happiness than if you do not do this practice for a lifetime. That's simple. And, here I am. I'm 61 now. I've been doing this practice for many, many decades, many. And I can tell you absolutely at this age, my body is way more balanced than it's ever been. I'm doing things that I would never imagine that I could have done at 30 years old. My mind is so much more steady. I pause before I react. I have learned how to step back a little bit. So I feel so much more content and appreciative and grateful in my mind. And I think that's why I can take on and do, something as challenging as taking care of someone with Alzheimer's. If anyone's out there that's ever done that, it's incredibly trying. And it's why I have this deep inner peace. And it's because I do the practice. And I don't have any expectation that I'm going to have the perfect body, or my back pain's gone, or I'll never have a headache. I don't have any of that. But guess what? I feel better now than I ever had. But that wasn't my reason. So that's it. That's been very profound for me. And that's what keeps me coming back again and again, daily.
Is committing to that, like your guru said, like do it for a lifetime. I also like what you said about the intuitive nudges, like being able to be in yoga for a practice. We might say like, oh, mind, body, spirit. But when we have that moment of that, that awakening of our mind to be able to listen to those intuitive nudges before they become like screams where you have to stop and halt. I sometimes call them whispers versus like banging on the door. And I think yoga has been a wonderful modality to help tune into some of those whispers, because when we're in some of those postures, I can think of maybe, some lunges or different things for hips or whatever, where we might have to, lean in a little bit more, or we might need to loosen up a little bit and kind of, take it back. And I love the, how you said you find yourself responding instead of reacting, taking that moment to be like, okay, what do I need now? And how can I respond instead of just react?
Yeah.
For those of you listening and not watching the video, I mean, Stacy is vibrant and beautiful. And, I read this long bio of a lot of what you do. And then also you describing, taking care of your mother for the last 7 years. Not to say that the way someone looks reflects on what's going on the inside, but you don't look like you're, exhausted, fatigued, overwhelmed. And had you been, you probably wouldn't be making time to do podcasts or different things like this. And I know you have this concept of being an energy billionaire. And I want to talk a little bit about that because, yeah, a lot of us listening have a lot on our plates. And I think we can have a lot on our plates, and do it, like you said, with that inner peace and that unconditional love. So what does the concept of energy billionaire mean?
Yeah. So energy billionaire. Yeah, I'm actually writing a book on this because as much of what I teach is the energy body, of understanding the energy body. So anything in life that has any real value is going to require a certain level of energy. The challenge is most people run out of energetic gas while they're climbing that mountain of success. When we're young, our bodies they're exploding with growth and energy. Remember that phrase, the wonder years? We're like a rocket ship that quickly soars. And then somewhere in our 20s, we reach a peak in our vitality. And then gravity sets in and we begin this long, slow decline. And bit by bit, muscle mass shrinks, bone density declines. And with these shifts come other changes. Strength, flexibility, balance, mental clarity, stamina. All these shifts start to happen. And then as we continue through the decades, 30, 40, 50, 60 and beyond, more shifts start to happen. We don't sleep as deeply. Recovery from injury and illness takes longer. We're more prone to certain diseases. Our tissues don't lubricate as well. I can speak about all of this at this point in my life. And all of a sudden, we've gone from the wonder years to the I wonder what hit me years. It's like, what happened? Now, despite all of this, there are those women who have fought back. They've decided not to coast. And whether they're 35, 55, 75, they're still living adventurous lives. They're still starting new careers. They've got a powerful body. They've got this soaring spirit. And these are the women I call energy billionaires because they've tapped in to a lot of what it is that I love teaching. And that is creating lifelong rituals that really will guarantee your success and mastering what I call the big three: how you move, how you eat, and how you think. And while we could place all our habits, both good and bad, in countless different categories, if you think about it, most of them are going to fall into one of those three categories. So when we come to how we move, if we come to our movement intelligently, we're bringing balance and symmetry. We're learning how to use our bodies so we don't overuse anything, but we use everything. Now our bodies are going to last a lifetime. If we come to the consumption of our food and our thoughts consciously and deliberately, now we're really addressing the whole person. And so when we're addressing the whole person, now we're bringing that true health, that true harmony to our lives over a lifetime. And that's really, and in my bio, I began like running health clubs and a chain of health clubs. I had plant powered cafes of really helping people eat more plants. I'm not saying that, everybody needs to be, yoga bending, plant eating, vegan, meditating. I'm saying that if you can take some very simple rituals in your life and start shifting, that those shifts make a big difference in your energy. Because the reality is, you can have the best body in the world, you can have the best job in the world, but if you don't have energy to do the things you really want to do, if you don't have enough time and energy in your day to accomplish everything you want to do with time to spare, then, you know, you're going to burn out. That's going to be the, that's just going to be it. You're going to burn out.
Yeah, that is the recipe for burnout. What did you say that the three, would you say how you move, how you
How
think,
you
how
move,
you
how you
live?
eat, and how you think. How you move, how you eat, and how you think.
How you move, how you eat, and how you
Yeah.
think. And I can think of, moments in my life where, yeah, I was definitely more like all eggs more in the move basket or all eggs more in the eat basket instead of looking at all three and wanting to fill them, let's say, equally. I know early on in my when I first moved to college and started working out, it was just like everything was in the move and probably the eat basket. It was like, what am I going to eat? Is it the right nutrients and protein and calories and the supplements and the things? But it wasn't until I was like 29, 30 that I really got into a lot of the how we think and how that impacts. And I had a lot of hormonal cystic acne on my skin, a lot of stuff that now I know has a big component of the thinking and that part is a huge component. You can, work out and eat the best foods and I would always say I was the healthiest person I knew because at that time, yeah, I was the one who was going to bed early and waking up and doing the workouts and having the regimented food meals and supplements and all those things. But I never, until I realized I had to talk about not an intuitive nudge, but like a banging at the door of like, hey, there's something going on up here that plays a big role. And the reason why you and I met is because I met your husband at a meditation retreat. And so meditation, I know, is a big proponent or a big part of your life, and you're a big proponent of meditation. And it's been something that has, yeah, changed my brain and changed who I am and how I operate and how I choose to show up in the world. And so do you find that too, where maybe some people put too many eggs in one of those baskets and forget that the other ones exist?
Well, what I would say is the think part is the biggest part, because exactly what you said, London, that you can eat perfectly, you can move perfectly, but if your thoughts are a mess, if you're inside beating yourself up because I didn't do the perfect diet, I didn't move today, I am not about that. I'm not about excessive exercise. I'm not about extreme dieting. All of that just is contributing more stress to your life. And so one of the reasons I love the practice of yoga and why it changed my life, I was that person. I was in the fitness world and I was teaching all the latest crazes and tried all the latest diets and all of that. Um, and I was just always stressed out about it. And when I found yoga, it's like all of a sudden that didn't matter. What I was finding is as I continued my practice is how I feel. When I ate this way, oh, I had less inflammation in my body. I feel better. My thoughts are more calm. When I ate this way, oh my gosh, this is how I feel. When I didn't sleep enough, when I did these things, this is how I felt. And every day it was a reflection in my practice. I was learning about myself. I was learning about my thoughts when I came into that practice. And so the thinking is a huge, huge part of it. If we don't stand guard of our mind first and foremost, none of that other stuff matters. And the journey that I teach and that I take people on is the journey back to your true self, to your essential self, and to your soul self, quite honestly. And at that level, that place inside of us is a state of being, not doing, but a state of being of abundant joy and unconditional love. And that's why it says that in my bio is what I'm helping people do is come back to that place. And when you come back to that place within yourself of abundant joy and unconditional love, all that other stuff falls into place. I don't count calories. I don't do all of that stuff. I am not excessive about my exercise. And yet I feel the best I ever have because it's helped me make the best choices based on how I feel so that when I sit, I feel good. My body's not achy. I'm not beating myself up. And so the thinking is the most powerful part of this is the thinking part.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I agree. If I had to choose one that I would choose to be the one, it would be the thinking. Absolutely. And I love what you said between being and doing. It reminded me of years ago, I think it was probably, 5 or 6 years ago. I remember when I was living in Austria, I was working for a fitness tech company, and we made fitness apps and things like that. And I remember one of the Hemsworth brothers like came out with an app, and the slogan was, "You're not a human being, be a human doing," or something like this. And this was like 6 or 7 years ago. So it was probably like at the very beginning of when the wheels were turning of like, something about that does not sound right. And I remember like leaving a comment and being like, I beg to differ. I think that the world is full of human doings, and we probably should go more into this being direction. And I just remember hearing that and being like bothered by it a little bit, Now, I mean, I have this podcast. I'm talking with people regularly who kind of get that, or we're like on that same page and wavelength, if you will. You've also been in the fitness industry for a really long time. Do you think just by the sake of my environment, the people that I'm talking with, that we're moving from human doing to human being? Or do you think as a society, as a collective, we're starting to see that? Or do you think I'm just kind of tunnel vision because those are the people I'm talking to and engaging with? Do you think we still have a long way to go? Or where do you see that change happening since you've been in the game for a while?
I think that we collectively are starting to wake up, and it's very exciting. I mean, I started in this, so long ago, and I remember when yoga, nobody was doing yoga. Like there was not a yoga studio in every corner. There was not yoga in gyms. This was not happening at that time. It was very fringe on the outskirts. And now it's like almost everyone I talk to is not only doing yoga, but they're also a yoga teacher. I mean, and maybe it's because I am in this world, but I will tell you, people are waking up, and you're starting to see more and more with meditation, with breath work, with energy work. All of these things are starting to come to the surface. From their roots, they're from yoga. This is the deep understanding. A lot of times it is not mentioned, but that's where a lot of this is coming from. All those different types of breath works going on, all of the different types of energy, moving energy. Much of that is from thousands and thousands and thousands of years ago from yoga. And so I think we are waking up collectively. I think our planet needs us to wake up from many different areas. We have to be more awake. And so I'm really excited about the future. I think more and more people are getting it. We just can't keep grinding. It can't just always be no pain, no gain. Why can't you get there through joy? I'll tell you a story. So in December 2020, a few days before Christmas, at the height of the pandemic, at the height of COVID, I was riding my electric bike up the road to pick up our mail. We have to go pick up our mail. And all of a sudden I felt the wheel shake as I was going downhill. It's the last thing I remember. I woke up in trauma care. My face seriously jacked up. I've had 9 different procedures, the asphalt and tar. I was knocked out cold. Called my husband, who was like working, and they're like, your wife is at trauma care. He couldn't come in because it's COVID, right? He has to wait outside. Long story short, my face was so jacked up. I had asphalt and tar embedded down to the bone. I've had 9 different procedures since then, of everything from tattoo removal to extreme lasers to try to pull all this out. But while I was going through this, a few months later, what I was noticing is I live on a beautiful property, and I walk along, and I used to see how the flowers were blooming and how beautiful it was. And I noticed after my accident with my face all really jacked up that I was finding everything wrong. I'd walk through the garden and I'm like, oh, that tree's dead. It needs to be taken out. Oh, those bushes need trim. Everything was like negative. One of my joys was this meditative walk I would do through nature in my garden. And now I'm just really down on it. And so something happened. I started to develop this weird thing called it started as a little sty in my eye, and then it turned into this weird thing called a chalazion, which literally looks like a giant wart on your eyelid. It is not pretty at all. And accompanied with my jacked up, tarred up face and stuff. And then at that time, I got the notification and that I was going to be the recipient of the World Health and Fitness Instructor of the Year, a very big award in my industry. You're voted by your peers. It's like the Academy Awards in my industry. And I was going to have to give this big talk, this acceptance talk. And I look at myself in the mirror and I'm like, just black tar. I look like Mike Tyson with all this. If you know who that is, he's the boxer with the tattoos. I got this big thing on my eye. I'm like, okay, Stacy,